From Tally to Cali.
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by
Vitamin Energy. The vitamins.
The energy.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! It's Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy. Coming up on today's show, practice observations. Should they matter or should they not matter? We discuss practice observations. And Jim McGill from the Bear Insider here to talk about the Golden Bears and the matchup for Saturday. Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy. VitaminEnergy.com. Promo code Warchant BOGO. Warchant BOGO. Buy one, get one free. I can't believe it. It's so good. Giving it away for free. Just for showing a little bit of faith and buying one, everybody. Incredible. 260 milligrams, all natural caffeine, no sugar crash, various vitamins, nutrients in every single bottle, 1.93 fluid ounces of Vitamin Energy. Take it everywhere you go. Put some in the desk at work, leave some maybe in the car, maybe a few in the gym bag, maybe a couple in the kids' lunchbox. I don't know. Hey, we all need to help our focus. I saw some study, Corey, where 43% of Americans are suffering from brain fog. Vitamin Energy's got something for you. It's called the Focus Plus. Try it. Yep. Buy one, get one free. VitaminEnergy.com. Noles helping Noles. It's not their fault, everybody. No. You know, like they were doing the rap last year. We were doing reads in the middle of shows last year. Winning ball games. Left and right. VitaminEnergy.com. Warchant.com, ultimate Seminoles sports source. Thumbs up, please. 5-star rating and review. A shout out to the guy who, on the wellness check, I'm like, don't leave a mean comment. And he left a comment that said, mean comment.
Okay, we can live with that.
Yeah, it was very
as long as you don't get... I got an email from somebody on Saturday night that said, good evening, sir, and I say that lightly. In the way we get our emails... You can see like the first 8 words that somebody has in the message.
Right.
Before you click on it, it's just in your inbox. It'll say like the first 8 or 9 words. And I'm like, yeah, not opening that one up. And I didn't. So sorry, man. If you want to send me a nasty email, make it seem like a polite email. And then, save your venom for like the 20th word, not the 8th.
That's Corey Clark, everybody. Lead writer, senior writer for Warchant.com. How are you, Corey?
I'm great, buddy. I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm glad you asked, Corey. True story here. On Monday, Tuesday rather. A little bit tired. Had to wake up early for practice. A little bit tired. Yeah. Staying up a little bit later than usual. Not good. And I'm like...
Watching my Falcons get that big dub.
I mean, come on. So did they have a timeout?
No, they didn't.
I would have ran the ball.
Yeah, I would have tush-pushed twice.
Well, I would have ran the ball, and then I would have, at least got milk some clock, so they wouldn't have had a...
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, if your all-pro running back can catch, the game's over. That's a perfect throw. I get the call. You just want to get the first down, the game's over, but I also think there is a risk that you might drop it. And if you tush-push, you're going to run 40 seconds off the clock. It's going to be 4th and 1. You're going to tush-push again, get the first down, the game's over. And Corey would have won this bet. Corey lost his bet, but the Falcons won the game.
There we go. That's how Corey rolls. So he's always a winner somehow.
Yep.
Smart guy there. So, listening to the wildly popular Seminole headlines, how many years has it been going down now? At least like 11, 12 years?
Our first year, I think, was Jimbo's first year.
No,
so 14.
Wow.
Is this our 15th? So does that mean it's our 15th football season?
Yeah.
How about that?
All right.
That's all right. We've been doing it for 15 years, game. The OGs. I don't know how else you'd describe us, right?
Yeah. I mean, you guys got to the space.
OGs.
So I'm listening to it and fading a little bit, trying to grind some tape, watch some Cal footage. We got Jim McGill, Cal Insider, going to talk shop. And I fade away into bliss, into a nice peaceful nap. And then before I know it, hour number 2, Seminole headlines. And I get woken up by Jeff introducing hour number 2.
Not me saying it.
Not you saying it. But Jeff Cameron wakes me out of my slumber, yelling out hour number 2. But I persevered throughout the day. Did Florida State persevere throughout Tuesday's practice? It's been a minute or two since you've watched it. You got a pretty clean palate. Mine not nearly as refreshed and untouched.
I don't know that that's a ringing endorsement for Seminole headlines if we put you to sleep.
I was horizontal. And again, long nights, early mornings, etc. So still love the show. I'm back on board. But yeah, so you've got this, clear eyes, full heart.
Yeah.
What did you think about Tuesday's practice? Because I've been watching this a lot, and the blah kind of blends into one another day after day after day.
Yeah, I mean, look, as we talked about on yesterday's show, there was nothing I was going to see from number 4 that would change any opinion of anything. So it was fine. They made some plays. They didn't make others. Looked like a normal practice. Looked like what I remember from August. Honestly, I will say,
really, like you think it's looked the way it's been looking.
Well, look, I thought the DBs and the one-on-ones were better than the receivers. That reminded me of most of preseason camp.
Fair.
7-on-7, you hit some plays, you didn't hit others. There were a few times where you had to scramble because there was nothing open. But there were a couple plays, Aslan. I'm gonna roll because I told y'all. Look, DJ made some throws. DJ makes better throws more consistently in practice than the other guys. And I know your response to that is
don't turn it off. Don't turn this off, everybody, please. Yeah.
Who cares? I'm with you. So I'm not going to even address the DJ throws, other than to say Hakeem Williams I thought had a good day. I noticed him a lot. He made some nice catches at 1-on-1s and 7-on-7s, and maybe 11-on-11 too, but definitely 7-on-7s made some.
They kept dragging him to the ground. Stop dragging him to the ground, everybody.
Yeah, he's the franchise.
Yeah.
So anyway, but there was a play in it was an 11-on-11. Brock Glenn takes a snap, immediately surrounded. I don't know if somebody missed a block, he missed a read, he missed a hot route. Whatever he was supposed to do to get rid of the ball, he didn't. And Earl Little is coming full speed. Earl Little and a defensive lineman, Grady Kelly maybe. It wasn't even. It's hard to even describe. I don't even know how to phrase it or draw a picture. So I'm not trying to give away any defensive secrets. But he's being chased by a defensive lineman and Earl Little, and the play breaks down immediately. It's not like he's scanning the field and then all of a sudden he's got to take off. And what I noticed, Aslan, is that he turned it into a 9-yard gain instead of a 7-yard loss, which is what the play deserved to be, because it was not blocked up well, or it was not executed well, or it was not read well by the quarterback to see pressure coming and get rid of the ball quickly. Offensive line didn't block who they were supposed to block, whatever it might be. It should have been, it deserved to be a 5 or 6 yard loss, and instead it was a 9-yard gain. That's it, man. That's it. That's all that matters. It is obvious you can't block it up. This kid has some athleticism where I don't know that is he faster than Earl Little? I don't know. Yeah. But they're in the same neighborhood, right? Like Earl Little wasn't hawking him down. I think it was Grady Kelly, actually, definitely wasn't hawking him down. And I have a feeling Grady Kelly would hawk DJ down, or at least run with him. And Earl Little absolutely would. But you have a guy now, again, not Usain Bolt. You have a guy that can turn negatives into positives, or at least can turn negatives into another chance, a chance to keep the drive alive, because he can scramble enough to throw the ball away. He can get us outside the pocket. But anyway, so I noticed that. That was about until the very end when he made a really nice throw to Amari Williams for a touchdown against, I think it was against Scout Team.
Yeah.
It was really the only play that kind of raised my eyebrows from Brock Glenn. Nothing else was awful, but nothing else was special either. That was a special type play. It wasn't even special. It was 9 yards, man. But those are the kind of things that keep drives alive. And it deserved to be 2nd and 17, like I said. Instead, it was 2nd and 1 because he was able to avoid the initial pressure and race to the sideline almost for a first down because he's pretty darn fast. He's just not a statue. So that play, he had another run in a scout team on I don't know if it was a scramble or design. I couldn't tell. But you see his legs, and they play. They're real. Again, I just want y'all. I keep wanting to stress this. He is not. I keep wanting to say Jamel Holloway. None of y'all know who
Reggie
that
White,
is.
'cause the Reggie White drop reference on.
Yeah, that Ira had. Yeah, Reggie White, Deacon Jones. Chabelle Holloway, the Oklahoma's quarterback, he actually took over for Troy Aikman. When Troy Aikman broke his leg, Chabelle Holloway became the quarterback, and they were awesome again and ran the wishbone, and they won a national championship. He's not that, but he's so much better. He's so much more dynamic an athlete when it comes to the rush, and that's what I wanted to see, and I saw it. Doesn't mean we'll see it on Saturday. I hope we do. But again, you're reminded in those moments. It's right there for everyone to see. That should have been blown up. That should have been a 7-yard loss. Instead, it was a 9-yard gain. So in reality, I know we call it a 9-yard run. It was really a 15 or 16-yard run. Instead of being at the 50, which you should have been, you were at the 35 because your guy could avoid a sack. Now, he might be a guy that throws right to linebackers every other play, and then obviously he becomes unplayable. But in the moment, right now, that ability, because you can't block it up for him, you can't execute your offense at a high level with the guy you have starting, it'd be nice to have those kind of wheels. And so, yeah, I hadn't seen Brock Glenn really practice in 2 weeks, and I was reminded again, oh, yeah, he can run. It's good to see that he can still run.
Other asterisks next to my notes, 11 on 11 when they were outside before the first snack break. Fantastic catch from Kyle Morlock. Throw made it have to be a great catch, and it was off the arm of DJ. It was wide open. He found himself, but shout out to Kyle for bringing down the catch. Very next series, Brock's out there, and they pretty much run the same sequence of plays, and Brian Courtney had an even better catch, contested in traffic in 11 on 11s off the arm of Brock. Blake Nicholson with a pick in one-on-ones.
Yeah.
You were there for that one, very competitive. That was off the arm of Brock.
And I think it was a running back that he was throwing to, but I can't remember.
I think it was Lawrence Toafili.
Yeah, and I thought Toafili had a couple of steps, and honestly, Brock Glenn underthrew the ball. But he had maybe a step and a half on Nicholson, which, again, Nicholson can run, man. He's an athlete, and it wasn't like he ran away from him. It wasn't a horrible throw, but it was not where it needed to be. But, again, that's what you hope he learns from.
Really nice screen pass during 11 on 11s from DJ to Cam Davis. I've got Hakeem Williams with a star next to his name in 11 on 11s. Really nice PBU by Edwin Joseph. Nice pick and 7 on 7s from Conrad Hussey.
I don't think it was a nice pick. I think Croman Hawk literally threw it right to him.
Yeah, well, yeah. Oh, okay. That's
right
fair.
To him.
That is accurate. And then
and look, I think we're at the point when we do these practice observations, and these guys are all big boys. They can handle criticism. If we're going to talk about interceptions, we probably are in the spot now of the season where we can say who threw them.
Okay.
And that was not a good throw at all. I don't know what he saw. I don't know. Maybe his arm couldn't have been hit because it was 7 on 7. There's no rush. Yeah. But it was just it was a really bizarre throw there. I don't know what he was looking at, but yeah, threw it right to him.
It was gross. The wobble on it. He threw a couple ducks on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Wasn't excited about that from Luke. Micaiah Danzy though, Luke did hook up with him for a touchdown 11 on 11. So that was like I don't know if there's like some buzzer in everybody's helmet where when they make a big play on offense, like, all right, this is the one where we're all going to run down the field and celebrate together as a team and come together. But it was that play. With all that said,
and it was it was a 62-yard touchdown.
Okay.
And it was against a linebacker that no linebacker has any business covering Micaiah Danzy. That was an absolute mismatch. And shout out to Croman Hawk for putting it,
beautifully,
just making the throw.
Oh, it was perfectly placed. Yeah.
Exactly right. When you have a guy that's that far, he's out front. He's obviously faster than the person covering. You don't have to make an absolute dime perfect throw. Just get it out there and let him go get it. Without overthrowing him, and he did because even if you throw it a little bit, a yard too much to the right, or maybe a half a yard too short, whatever it might be, he's so far ahead, he's still going to make the play, and it ended up being a long touchdown. It was a really nice throw, good read, and then Micaiah Danzy reminds you again that there's nothing quite like him on the football team, speed wise.
All that now to say that I got to see something pretty good out of these next 25 periods of practice to pick them to beat Cal, because in period 3, They did a red zone-ish sort of 11-on-11, Corey, and it's smart because, listen, they made it inside the 5-yard line against Memphis, and they could not punch it in for a touchdown.
They did milk a lot of clock, though.
That's true.
In that drive, yeah. Down by 2 scores.
You got nothing out of your run game in the first 2 plays of period 3, and then you throw an interception to Fentrell Cypress. Brock comes in. He gets a little bit more help on the run game. He also helps out the run game himself, and then does end up running in for a touchdown on a play, though, that should have been flagged as a false start. And I don't know why it wasn't. The blocker on the perimeter jumped a good 1.5 seconds before the ball was snapped and engaged with the defender. There was a ref right there on the sideline. Didn't blow the whistle, didn't throw the flag. They just went ahead and said game on, and Luke plunged it in for a touchdown. So I guess that was kind of okay to see. But just the fact we got interceptions, we've got pre-snap penalties in the first period of 11-on-11. And then when they go outside before the snack break and they do that final play before the snack break where it's usually a red zone, it's like a goal line situation more or less, Corey. 4-yard line. I mean, it took 5 seconds, but Ja'Kai Douglas caught a touchdown. But any opposition with bad intentions would have gotten home and sacked DJ easily. And then throughout the day, we just, we talked about the fire that I want to see from Coach Norvell on the sidelines during games. I mean, he's been intense throughout practice this entire preseason and during this 3-game losing streak. But man, he dressed down 2 guys that are on scholarship. I think he barked at another guy that didn't do kind of jumped the gun during one-on-ones. A defender kind of lunged after a guy, and I felt like it was almost like a mocking way, like he almost rubbed his nose in it after he got beat on the rep. And like Norvell pointed out to him, I wrote in my notes, he took you. I'm pretty sure he yelled out, he took you 2 times at this kid. So this is what it's looked like to me like the last 3 weeks, man. There's been good plays, but I don't know, man. There needs to be maybe some sort of ratio, because I'm not trying to say that practice last year was completely flawless, and I don't want to overanalyze practice because, listen, man, they should be able to make mistakes in practice and get better from them. But like when you see the way this coach is reacting on overthrows, just any sort of general play on offense that doesn't work out 11-on-11, you look over at Mike Norvell and you just see his shoulder slump and you see him shake his head. Like he's doing that week 4. They've had a bye week. I just don't know what's going to have to take for these things to start happening more efficiently and effectively so that he's not having these sort of, malaise moments throughout practice. But these things that have been present, and we overlooked it because it's practice and hey, this is a really good defense and defense ahead of the offense. Like these things just continue to happen, the penalties and the mental lapses. So it's still present out there, but they're out there working, man, and for whatever that's worth.
Yeah, and I just, I hesitate in putting, obviously practice is what matters the most. Well, no, transferring it to the game is what matters the most, clearly. But I hate putting so much stock in what we see because I know the same stuff happens at Ohio State. It just does. And the same stuff happens at Georgia. And the same stuff was happening in 2013 here. And we saw some stuff like that happen here last year when practices are open. We just don't we're not at every other practice. So I just think that's the natural course of a football practice. There are going to be mistakes. There are going to be times where coaches dress down players. We are just fortunate enough to be able to see it. But I think that happens everywhere. So I guess my point is, and we're going to still be out there. I'll be out there. Well, I don't know if I'll be out there today. No, I won't. But you guys will be out there. No matter what happens, no matter how it looks, in our personal instance, it does not matter if we don't see it on Saturday. So I know perfect practice makes perfect, and you do want to practice these habits, and you do want to get better, and you want to see guys make plays. But look, Hakeem Williams, just when I was there at practice, and I missed half of it. Long story, alarm didn't go off, and couldn't park anywhere on campus, which was awesome. I had to pay. I had to go to visitor park.
How much did it end up costing you?
$4.
Okay.
So I think I'm going to do that again. It's good to know that that's an option because I was about to park illegally, and they'll be on me in 30 seconds at Florida State if you park illegally. But Hakeem Williams had just when I watched it, he had three catches of 20 yards or more, and I think all 3 were in 11-on-11. One might have been 7-7, but 2 were in 11-on-11. Well, man, imagine Florida State having a receiver going 3 for 65. That's big news around here. That's big time. That's your playmaker.
I know, man, but
that's what I'm saying. Like, it doesn't matter. Until you see it against Cal, it doesn't matter. Because in 11 on 11 and 7 on 7, there is a rush in 11 on 11, but you can't imagine how much more calm everything is in the pocket in 11 on 11 in practice. How much calmer the quarterback looks, maybe how much better, I don't know. But it just looks night and day from what you see on Saturdays. So, Jeff today was like, they don't have any good receivers or something like that. And I'm like, how would we know? How would we know? Like or they don't have any playmakers or receivers. Like, how would we know that?
Well,
yes, they've dropped some balls. Not happening, Well, right, but wouldn't that have a lot to do with the quarterback play?
The quarterback, yeah, I get you.
I mean, I feel like that has everything to do with the quarterback play. On that last drive, the last drive where they had to punt it back with 2 minutes left, and he takes 2 horrific sacks. Nobody's open, apparently, right? We can go ahead and say DJ didn't. I haven't seen the all 22. There might not have been anything open. Well, there were times last year when your receivers weren't open either, and the quarterback still took a shot.
Right.
To see if they can make a play. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say Malik is going to go one-hand a ball over a guy 10 feet in the air like Keon Coleman and make a play. He's not Keon Coleman. But Darian Williamson made the best catch of his life in that game. He wasn't wide open. He wouldn't have made a play. He also dropped a ball. I get it, everyone. Malik Benson had a 65-yard catch. Malik Benson had probably his best catch of the season to convert a third down in the second half when he was not open because he was allowed to go make a play. So how do we know? How would we know with this bad of an offense in general what they are at receiver? So again, it's great. It'd be is Danzy a playmaker? I don't know. But I know he makes a heck of a lot of plays in practice.
Right.
And I'd like to see that kid on the field more.
Yeah, I feel
if practice matters, you know what I mean?
It absolutely does, man.
Who's made more big plays in the last 5 weeks, 6 weeks since they got to preseason camp? Who's made more big plays in the passing game or just in general than Mekhi Danzy?
He's up there,
I would say
right?
nobody.
Yeah.
But where is he on Saturdays?
I mean, what it comes down to for me is just, he's yelling at a guy that's on offense that didn't show good effort, like gave up on a play. And
yes.
The guy's been here for a long time. How are you doing that? Like Mike would dress down a freshman last year, maybe like, hey, like this is our standard. You need to play to it. You got guys that have been here for years. You've got guys that have played a lot of football that apparently aren't holding up like their end of the bargain. And yeah, man, it's 25 periods. You're going to make a bunch of plays. You're going to make mistakes. But like looking at the way Mike is processing the mistakes that are happening, it's a different level of what he was dealing with last year. Like I feel like last year it was, you knew you were so close to being like a perfect offense if everything would click that you're pushing everybody for that finishing touch to make everything be unstoppable. Whereas like you're now in week 4, week 5 of the season, and you're making like effort mistakes. You're not lining up in the right place. You're not showing, you're not following instruction properly. It's just like that kind of stuff we're seeing at practice, and like that's what makes you feel like this is like a problem. And once he starts seeing that it's not as much of a problem, it's going to kind of trickle down to him being a little bit more relaxed. Like, all right, we can believe him when he says, opening up every single interview, yeah, good day of practice. That was a good work day. Like today on Tuesday, he didn't say that. That's like one of the first times he didn't come up with like, good day of work. Like he kind of moved around it. I mean, he made them run a bunch after practice too. I don't know if that was accountability runs for the way they looked in the game. Yeah, man, just it's not a great time right now. Not a great time. But you already know that, everybody.
Yeah, correct. I do think some of that is magnified though because of the season. Yeah, it's magnified because of the season, right? Like you see these mistakes, and it's an 0-3 football team, and quite frankly, a bad football team for now. It makes you roll your eyes even more and wonder what's wrong. But at the same time, that guy was not a quiet mouse last year during those 13 weeks of practice. There were plenty of reasons.
He was yelling at his kid to like, I need you to get A so you can get into Yale. Now he's yelling at his kids like, I need you to get a C so you can graduate high school.
I think. Well, sure, but yes, I get. Yes, that's a good analogy. But I'm saying like he was still yelling sometimes about effort. He was yelling about execution. He was yelling about a snap being at the ankles. He did all that last year too. It was just it was masked by a very good quarterback and some special guys at the skill positions that they obviously don't have right now. So, but yeah, man, it's all bad when you're 0-3, and it all looks bad. And you go out there and you're like, yeah, this isn't a well-oiled machine. Why would we think it would be? It ain't. This isn't a machine at all. It's a broken down parts right now. So hopefully they can put it together and they can create something that even needs oil. Right now, it's not even a machine to oil. So when you watch these practices and you watch these games, you understand it's just so hard right now for this offense to do anything. Like to just grind out first downs. It feels like you want to celebrate you want to release balloons into the sky every time they get a first down. It is not how it should be in 2024. And so, yes, you watch that performance on Saturday, and then you come back, and the first time you're watching them on practice the following week, which again, I'll say it, we're lucky to get to watch. You just get more. You can get more frustrated, but I wasn't frustrated just because it's kind of been what we've been seeing. And last year, I don't remember the practices I watched, which were a good bit during the season too. I don't remember being like, "Holy cow, that was an incredible practice." Holy moly! It's football practice. Again, there's going to be ebbs and flows and bad days or bad moments every single practice. But the problem is, he's having bad practices with a roster that's not as talented.
Just feel like we're seeing throws that never happen. Guys got to eat the ball because he's not seeing it. We're seeing throws go off the fingertips of guys that, catches would have been made last year by better players. I mean, I guess I just feel like there's no way we can watch this team practice this way 8 months from now or whatever when spring football starts and think like, all right, things are, I think there's going to be a noticeable change in the way they're practicing if they are headed on a better trajectory come springtime. Otherwise, yeah, I think, you kind of are where you are right now. Not to say that you cannot get better. Listen, if Brock starts playing, to Corey's point, we were standing side by side when that play happened that he talked about earlier in the podcast. And it's almost a microcosm of, the issues that you have. Either A, lack of protection, either B, guys getting open downfield, or either C, your quarterback not seeing it correctly. But there's a solution. That guy running the football, and that changes everything. And maybe not negatives into positive, but at least negatives into neutrals, and you throw the ball away, and it's 2nd and 10 as opposed to 2nd and 17, and that's much more manageable when you're fighting and clawing your way uphill. So,
especially when you don't have a great play. And look, man, again, Brock Glenn might not be very good at all. He might be awesome, but he might not be very good. But if you're not going to be very good, you're certainly not very good with the starter. And again, the starter they just tee off on. And I'm genuinely interested, if they do make a change, how much better the running game gets. Because I was telling, and I said this on headlines, their record if Cam Davis had been the quarterback all 3 games. Probably 0-3.
Yeah.
But I bet they'd be averaging about 200 yards a game rushing. Imagine Cam Davis in the backfield with like Toa Feely to his left. Or Cam Davis in the backfield with Dancy to his left or right. And he throws 12 times a game. Like, he can throw it well enough to keep you sort of honest, if he could. But that's a guy that it just changes the math. And it changes to the math where, okay, you have a one-on-one with the quarterback. Well, right now, if there might not be a defender in the United States that has a one-on-one with Florida State's quarterback in the backfield that can at least slow him down or get it, corral him.
Yeah.
Literally, I don't know that there's a starting defender on the schedule, maybe Charleston Southern because they might have smaller kids, that couldn't just stop DJ in the pocket if he's there one-on-one unblocked. Well, if Cam Davis is your quarterback, and Brock Glenn's probably a better example, but if you have an athlete back there, you have an athlete that they can't. Not everybody can tackle. They're just not physically capable of it. He's too fast. He's too twitchy. Cam Davis would I just think that changes everything where they have to start respecting the QB run game more. That's going to open up some more holes. You could hit some big plays because he can make one guy miss and then he's off. And the same goes for Brock Glenn. But again, I just want to see what it looks like, what the running game looks like when you have an actual option at quarterback. And it's like, man, it's not great. It's not great that your fifth-year coach, your fifth-year play caller, has an offense that's so bad you just want to go back to like middle school days and be like, well, just put a great athlete back there, let him take a snap and run around. Maybe he'll hit a throw. But sorry, Mike, that's what you got right now, man. Got an offensive line that can't block. Your running game is spectacularly bad, like horrifically so, like historically so. And your quarterback takes a lot of hits and doesn't see it real well. So you can't bring in a whole new offensive line. You ain't firing the play caller. But get some mobility back there just to see what it's like. The problem is, and I've been thinking about this a lot the last couple of days because everybody wants to see it. Everybody needs to see it. We can't keep watching what we're watching. Odds are it probably won't result if Brock Glenn plays the entire game. It's probably not going to look much better as it Aslan. Like, I think that it'll be a different kind of suck.
Right.
And I do think you'll run the ball better. But I don't think all of a sudden when you get inside the 20, it's going to look great.
It's like Fuller said about whoever, like maybe Marvin and Peyton, like better, but it needs to be better.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, Brock Glenn,
yeah.
The offense will look better, but it still is going to need to get, much better.
Yeah, this is just like a stopgap. Yeah. This is just like a stopgap, really, to try to infuse some running game into this thing.
I don't, it can't be just a stopgap. I mean, if you are at some point going to use Brock, don't you have to almost use it also, I mean, as an audition kind of for moving forward 2025, or do you have to look at it as just, let's just focus on this game. Let's call plays or whatever that we need to call to get the ball, matriculating down the field for just this game only.
Yeah, we talked about that on Headlines. As somebody, as a media member, and I'm sure most people listening to this, yeah, absolutely you want to say, go play for the future. Go play for 2025. This is an audition. In a way, it would be. But, Mike Norvell, most coaches don't think like that. They think about, I got to win this game that's right in front of me. What gives me the best chance to win this game right in front of me? What gives me the best chance to actually have some semblance of a running game? How can I do that? How in the world can I do that? Because this is abysmal. And right now, the only real option he has, in my opinion, is a change at quarterback to just change the athleticism back there. But I don't know that so I think if he makes a change, I don't think right now in the middle of September, I guess this would be the late September by the time the game comes, I don't think he's making a change just for let's see what Brock Glenn can do because I'm playing for 2025. I think he's making a change as let's see what Brock Glenn can do because we need a win. Now, it's semantics. It's the same. The end result is the same. Brock Glenn is the quarterback if he's playing. But that's why I think he would do it. I don't think he would do it right now in September when you still only play 2 conference games to just like, let's see if this guy gives us the bet. Let's see if this guy's the guy for 2025. I don't think most coaches, and I don't think he thinks like that. But he needs to think like, even if he doesn't think like that, which maybe he should, maybe he shouldn't. I don't know. But he definitely needs to think about what can free up our running game. I mean, at least do something.
Do you look at it as though he's going to be like, Brock, and we're just going to junk it up and figure out a way to make this work? Or does he look at it like we're going to create game plans? Like we're going to look at Brock like a true blue starting quarterback and everything is back on the table that we installed in August and September. That's kind of the more like, I guess pressing sort of thing that I'm worried about.
I think that would, and we don't know. Honestly, guys, we have no idea who's going to be the starting quarterback. You can ask us on Friday or me on Friday at Corner Pocket. I still won't know. Legitimately, I don't know. So we don't know that Brock Glenn's going to be the starter. If he was the starter, yeah, man, it would be dumb not to simplify it a little. But it can't look like it did against Louisville. You've got that was but that also you had a defense that you just were going to ride and you were going to hope the quarterback didn't make a horrible mistake. But you've got to be able to use some of your real offense. So yeah, man, you should simplify it a little for a guy that hasn't played much. But then I say that he says that he simplified it for DJ some, and look at the results. Yeah. So yeah, man, I really have no idea. I would just think you wouldn't make a change and then run the exact same offense. You would make a change to highlight the strengths of the new quarterback. So we'll see if and when that happens. But it's if DJ runs out there again on that first series, man, it's just not going to be a pleasant atmosphere. Bring the other DJ back to drown out the booze, because it's going to be an unpleasant atmosphere if he runs out there again. Feel bad for him. I do. If he was in a better situation with a team that could actually run the ball, maybe his shortcomings wouldn't be so magnified. But they are, because they can't run the ball, and they don't have a good offensive line, and maybe they don't have anything special out wide. It's a really hard situation, and it sucks that Florida State's in a position where you're like, well, literally, you could go around every quarterback they've played so far would be better than the one they're currently playing. And Castellanos, they might be 3-0 with Castellanos, man.
Yeah.
And I don't think Castellanos ain't
Jamel Holloway?
Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, he's no Jamel Holloway up back there. He's not a national championship quarterback, but you'd be 3-0 with him. And if you want to really, and look, that would mask some real issues going on with the team, but who cares? I don't care if issues are masked. You just want W's. There was some stuff last year that was masked because you had some really, really special players. Great. That was a fun mask to see and wear. But when you look at that, when you look at the quarterback play, and you look at the people around the quarterback that are there, it's like what you can't convince me that they couldn't have gotten. And I just keep bringing him up because they played him twice in 2 games, and he's put up 29 points and 28 points playing Florida State in the last 2 seasons, and he's in the conference. But Castellanos, you can't tell me you couldn't have gotten him for what you paid DJ. And you also can't tell me that they would be worse with him. I think they win these games, man. I think they're at least 2-1 with them. I don't know if they they'll definitely beat Boston College, because Boston College is quarterbackless. I think they're at least 2-1 with Castellanos. And it would have been nice if your head coach and your offensive coordinator, your offensive line coach could have foreseen, maybe this current construct of this offense with these offensive linemen, we're not going to be able to run the ball unless we have something mobile back there. And they don't. So that's been an issue. I wonder, Cam Ward is obviously better than DJ. Can I go ahead and say that?
It's a very subjective opinion, but okay.
Jury's still out, clearly. Only 3 games in, gang. Let's see where they are in December. But Cam Ward isn't exactly a runner either. He can move. He's a good athlete, but it's not like he's running for 80 yards or 100 yards. He's not Castellanos athletic. So I wonder, it would look better. I do think they'd be 3-0 with him. But I do not think you're looking at a team that would be scoring 50 points a game with Cam Ward at quarterback. They'd be eking out. Maybe they beat Georgia Tech 28-24. Maybe they beat BC, 30-21 or something. I don't think they were just a good quarterback away, a great quarterback away from being a good offense. I still think there would be real struggles. I think with Castellanos, at least you could run the ball with him. I don't know that Cam Ward makes you any much better of a running offense. You just would have a better offense overall because he sees it quicker, he gets it out quicker. He's able to avoid the rush a lot better than the guy you got.
Avoid the rush by getting the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill for their lunch specials. Wednesday.
Well done. Well, people must think we have pre-production meetings for you to do that. That segue's so good.
I was about to jump into when you said something about struggles and be like, it's never a struggle, or like the only thing you'll be struggling at Corner Pocket Bar and Grill is trying to figure out what delicious item you want off their very diverse, tasty menu.
That's right.
But we had to go with the other one. Lunch special today, Wednesday, is 5-piece chicken wings and French fries, only $8.99 from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Tomorrow night, bingo night, 7 o'clock. Go check that out. It'll be fun. Friday night, 5 p.m. live meet and greet with Corey Clark and Jeff Cameron of The Jeff Cameron Show, 5 p.m. meet and greet at Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Not sure if I'll show up. Maybe I will. Who knows? Who knows how it's all going to work out. But don't forget, happy hours weekdays from 4 to 7 p.m. and then all day Sunday. That's a really solid deal. Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, 2475 Appalachian Parkway, cptallybar.com, the website. Let's talk Cal. Jim McGill, editor of the Bear Insider, talks about it right after this. Let's get some insight now on the Cal Golden Bears coming to this one 3-0. We got Jim McGill. He is the editor of Cal Insider, calinsider.com. Thanks for taking time out, Jim. Man, this I I hope everybody's able to maybe go over to YouTube and watch at least this segment to see the backdrop behind you. I think it's so cool because there's a level of arrogance down here in this part of the country, Jim, when it comes to sports, especially college sports, that we've got it the best and we care the most. And you look like you're quite the sports fan too. What's the most proud, I guess, piece of memorabilia you got behind you there?
That it's hard to say. There's a lot to choose from. I think the Joe DiMaggio one, the black and white, I got at the Hall of Fame. I've got an actual Joe DiMaggio autograph in it. Not signed for me personally, but by somebody that I know. So I think that's a really cool one. But I have a deep love for lots of different sports, and ever since I could walk and talk, that was there. So that you see that in my den for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so Jim, this will be the first ACC game as we welcome the Golden Bears to the Atlantic Coast Conference. Bring your A game. Not quite the Conference of Champions of the Pac-12. Just how big of a game do you think this is for Cal, despite the fact that Florida State comes into this limping, despite being the conference champions, defending conference champions at 0-3? Just how much sort of juice is there? How much focus do you think Justin Wilcox and the Golden Bears have for this one?
It's an interesting question because I think most Cal fans assume that this was basically an unwinnable game coming into the season. But every year presents different challenges, especially in this NIL era. You guys had so many guys go to the pros, double digits, and but still everybody knows there's a lot of talent there. Sometimes it just takes a while to blend. Sometimes it's the personality mix. Sometimes it's just how different skill sets match with each other. And Cal fans are basically aware that they don't want this to be the week that FSU figures it out and gets it going. But I'll tell you, ever since the ACC thing was announced, and ever since it was discovered that Florida State was the very first ACC game, and it was a road game in Doak Stadium, I can't tell you how fired up Cal fans were from minute one. So yeah, the start's a little confusing to Cal fans, but nonetheless, it's a real exciting matchup coming up.
Yeah. So this is season 9, if I'm not mistaken, kind of take a big picture look at the Golden Bears and Justin Wilcox, and things haven't been able to match, I guess, that 8 wins that he got in 2019. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here. He's Oregon through and through. I think at one point might have been kind of a candidate. I don't know if he actually I thought he might have even turned down the job after Mario Cristobal left Oregon to go down to Miami. But just how have things kind of progressed over the last few years with Justin Wilcox, and the staff seems to have some continuity. Does he finally feel that maybe he's got the things in place to kind of build a winner? I know after the San Diego State game last week, he said, we're all learning to kind of win at every level of this program right now. Do you think they've got the sort of right mix and feel confident with where they're at?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Wilcox did play at Oregon. He grew up in Junction City, just in the shadow of Eugene. I think his dad, Dave Wilcox, was a Duck too. But yes, they did offer him the second time around. The first time they talked to him in a previous opening, the second time they offered him, I told people, I told an Oregon beat writer, I don't think he'll take the job. And he was incredulous. Why in the world would he not take the Oregon job? It's one of the premier coaching jobs in the country. I said, because he's wired differently. The way that Oregon is right now is kind of flashy. It's you're in a fishbowl there, and that's not really his style. He is the lowest key, down to business guy that you'll find as a head coach out there. No ego. He just wants to be in a position where he can get things done with quality people around him. People thought he was coach on the rise. The records got a little bit better each year. Got to a bowl game and won the bowl game and had 8 wins, and then COVID hit. There's a lot of adversity that Cal faced that was a little bit of a unique brand compared to what a lot of other programs face. Came out of that, just never really recaptured the magic. Last year was a disaster 2/3 of the way through the season, when they turned around and won 3 straight games before the bowl game. And then started this season winning 3 straight games. So six straight last regular season games. I think the big difference is that the portal has been a game changer. You know very well, Florida State's been big in the recruiting game for a long time, but you have to show it on the field to get the top level high school recruits. But with the portal, these guys, a lot of them have seen Cal, and they're like, I really like Cal, but they're not quite good enough for me to commit to them. And they commit to a big stage somewhere else. And maybe they don't like the environment so much. Maybe they're even doing well, but they're looking for something more. He's brought in a bunch of these quality guys that maybe they performed well in their previous spot. Maybe they didn't really live up to expectations, and maybe this is the opportunity. He's got the right mix of guys. And I've seen this program, man, I'm telling you, 50 years I started following this Cal program, and I've never seen the level of depth that they have right now. They've had better teams for sure. They've had high-end talent like Aaron Rodgers and Marshawn Lynch and Tony Gonzalez and Cameron Jordan and so many guys that have not only been good college players, but have been stars in the NFL and are headed for the Hall of Fame, but they haven't had the depth. Now they've got the quality depth. Maybe they're not quite as good as the starters, but there's not a significant drop-off. If you looked at who was backing up those stars I mentioned before, in most position groups, it was a massive drop-off. So when there was injuries, forget it. Cal's had 5 or 6, actually 7 big injuries this year, and we've seen a lot of starters miss every game or most of the games, including Jade Knott, one of the best running backs in the country. But they keep rolling because they have depth. So that's the big difference I think you're seeing this year.
Can't forget about Deshaun Jackson. I think Florida State even tried to recruit him at some point, but he stayed on the West Coast there, went from Poly to Berkeley. So
yeah,
definitely some big time talent has been there at Cal. Offensively, everything everywhere seemingly starts at the quarterback spot. Fernando Mendoza is just an extremely earnest, likable young man. He seems to be really efficient early on here in the season, especially what he was able to do down on the plains against Auburn. How impressed are you with that young man? And just, I don't know how surprising, or have you guys seen this coming the way that he's been able to kind of perform early on this season?
Mendoza's a unique guy. I mean, he came in as a 2-star recruit, late addition in the class. People didn't know what to expect from him. They struggled a lot with their first 2 in the 2 deep last year. Sam Jackson had injuries. He had a lot of turnovers. Ben Finley came in from North Carolina State, played pretty good in the first game when Jackson got injured, but then he just absolutely fell apart. So Mendoza was thrust into this role as starting quarterback as a redshirt freshman. Usually you see young quarterbacks kind of groomed and eased into the situation. He didn't expect to play more than a couple snaps last year. So he did a lot of good things last year, but he was turnover prone, particularly with fumbles. He wasn't big and strong enough to be able to withstand the contact that he put himself in sometimes when he'd scramble or if the line missed a block. He's gained 20 pounds of muscle in the off season. So he's able to take some blows, and he's taken some big shots this year for sure. But you won't find a guy that works harder than him. You talked about his personality that you've seen a little bit. What you see is what you get. This is a guy that will not leave any stone unturned to make himself the best quarterback that he can be. He may not be Aaron Rodgers when it comes to just pure talent, but he has enough of a skill set, and he has the work mentality to absolutely get every ounce of talent out of his body, basically. And he's growing. I mean, the last couple of weeks you've seen 70+% completion rate, and that's a real sign that he's taking the next step and turning the corner as a quarterback. So it'll be really interesting to see where he continues to develop and how he ends up.
Isaiah Hunter's a guy that it seems like there's been some good chemistry early on between, Mendoza and he. How would you kind of I know everyone thinks about Jade Knott. We'll get to the running back and how important this running game is, but in terms of the passing game, I don't know if it's so much a deep shot, chunk play sort of receiving core. Seems to be more of an efficient kind of take what they'll give us sort of approach. But what kind of talent do you think Mendoza's working with out wide right now?
Hunter's an interesting situation. He was a prep recruit a little more than an hour away from Berkeley, and he was a deep threat, really speedy guy, ran a 10.700 in high school. But he seemed kind of overwhelmed last year. He didn't really impress in camp. He dropped a lot of balls, and people weren't really sure what they were going to get out of him. But man, has he turned a corner this year. He had a really good camp, and he's got 4 touchdowns already this season. So, he's pushing the most touchdowns that any receiver had last year, really early this year. The wide receiver room in fall camp was really loaded. You could look at 10 guys that they could put out there that could be very productive in this system. One of the problems is the number 1 and the number 2 guys, Tobias Merriweather, who was a portal transfer from Notre Dame, and Keon Grays, who was a portal transfer from Ohio State, they got injured in fall camp and they haven't played it down this season. But it's a testament to the depth that I was talking to you about earlier. The other guys have stepped in and have gotten the job done. Normally, they'd like to stretch the field. They have the weapons to do it. But 2 of those big weapons to stretch the field and throw deep are sitting on the bench right now, so because they're injured. So you won't see it as much. You'll see it on occasion. You'll see it in the spots. It's more of a ball control passing offense, but they do have a lot of reliable guys behind those 2 that are out that can get the job done.
Up front, it seems like a pretty experienced laden offensive line. You know, Florida State has a lot of experience on their offensive line, hasn't worked out in their favor. I know left tackle has been a spot there between Nick Morrow and Vic Stofel, where they've, I think, Nick came out of the game a little bit, maybe against Auburn. They had to kind of give him maybe some time to catch his bearings down there, but I think he kind of bounced back maybe this past week. How has he come along at the left tackle spot? Just how confident does the offense seem to be because of an offensive line that has so much experience on it?
Nick's another interesting story. He's a guy that was a tight end in high school, and the Cal staff saw a guy that had the size to play left tackle. And a lot of times, former tight ends, they have the feet and the agility that you like to see in a left tackle. And he had a really good fall camp. In general, I think he's had a pretty solid start to this season, but there's going to be growing pains, and we all knew that would happen. Defenses see a young guy, a redshirt freshman, and they know that they're not always equipped to be able to deal with everything that you throw at them. And Cal has seen some really aggressive defenses this year. So it's a growing thing for him. Again, the line is another testament to the depth of this team. If you would have seen, there's 2 offensive linemen that have been out every snap of the season also. The center, McDonald, and the right guard, Vadakani, those 2 guys were keys to this line. Other guys have stepped in, Bastian Swinney and Matthew Wyckoff and some others, and have gotten the job done in large part. But there's weaknesses there. There's vulnerability. In general, they played fairly solidly. You look at the second half against San Diego State, and they just gashed them. First half, though, it was like, man, what's going on? They changed things up a little bit. They got a little bit more aggressive. They changed the blocking scheme a little bit. So it's hard to say what you will see out of this line this next week. Will you see the line that seemed to take a step forward in the second half and gash the defense? Or will you see the line that struggled to pick up 4th and 1 situations a couple of times? It's a TBD situation there.
All right, let's get to the running backs then. I mean, the running game's been an extremely productive part of the Cal attack so far this year, and it hasn't really been Jaden Ott much, which is everybody's is very familiar with his game. I want to get your thoughts real quick on Jaden Ott, and I think you said that you were able to catch up with the team during their media availability this week before we caught up here on this interview. But you've spoken to Justin Wilcox a bunch. I never have. But listening to his post-game interview after the San Diego State game, he seemed a little bit miffed on Ott not being available to go against San Diego State. Kind of I was expecting him to be ready, but for whatever reason, he decided to not play in this game. It felt more like Jaden's decision rather than the doctor's decision. Where is Jaden right now, do you think? Did Wilcox shed any light on his availability this coming week against Florida State?
Yeah, he was asked about the availability of all the guys that were injured, and he essentially implied that everybody but the 2 receivers were likely to play this week, including Ott. I still think that it will be a reduced workload for him. At 100%, he's one of the most electric backs in the country, but he suffered an injury at the end of the first game. And you could see, if you watched any of their second game, that he wasn't himself. Auburn, they had a big defensive line, but normally he'd be able to pick up some yards in some situations, and he just didn't have it. The hope is that the rehab has got him to the point where he has some of that explosiveness, that as he's out there, it's not wasted reps, that he has the chance to flash what he's capable of. But that running back room is another room that's very deep. They go 5 deep legit. The guy who really lit it up last week, Javian Thomas, is a true sophomore, and he came in very undersized. I think he played at 170 or 175 last year. And even though he's real fast, you you can't take contact at that size. He's significantly stronger, and he didn't lose any speed this year. So he really took advantage of the opportunity that he got to showcase what he could do. And then you saw Kadarius Callaway come on in the second half, and he did some really nice things too. And then a surprise to a lot of people, true freshman Jamal Wiley, he came in and he was a bull. That they call him Baby Marshawn because they have a similar wide base running stance that the defense feels it when he hits you. And then you've got Byron Cardwell, who's a transfer from Oregon that has a lot of talent too. And he's coming off an injury from last year where he's not 100% yet. So you haven't seen the best of him. But yeah, without doubt, they've still been able to run the ball well for the most part when the line is performing well. So that's another testament to the Cal depth for sure.
Byron Cardwell, that's a familiar name to people down here. They were really in the mix for him, and we're bummed out that they lost in Oregon. And interesting to hear that he's surfaced over there in Berkeley. Famous man once said, actually might have been a woman, but that abs are made in the kitchen. So all that working out that we do, Corey and myself, you still got to eat right. And usually that means eating at home, but man, that's so annoying, right? Like all the dishes, having to go to the grocery store, measuring everything out. That's why you should check out HelloFresh. We used to do this a few years ago. Remember everybody, HelloFresh? Go to HelloFresh.com/freewarchant for an offer for 10 free meals, free shipping, and free breakfast for life? ? But this stuff was great. There's literally recipes that they sent me 2-3 years ago that I still use at home, but it doesn't quite hit the same. Some of these spices they use are proprietary, and people on the internet try to match it, but they fall short of the glory of HelloFresh. But these meals show up like properly packed in dry ice. Everything is pretty much proportioned out, so like it helps out with the entire measuring and like utensil usage. Like everything's pretty much ready to go. You just either throw it in the pan, throw it in a bowl, and it lessens the load because like I don't really mind cooking at home. I just hate doing dishes. I found out HelloFresh gave me delicious meals and also lessened the dishwashing aspect component because I don't have anybody to help me out with that stuff. So womp womp for Aslan. Check out HelloFresh. Again, HelloFresh.com/freewarchant for an awesome introductory offer. Let's flip it to the defense now. I know Justin Wilcox is he's a defensive-minded guy, but Peter Sirmon entitled as a defensive coordinator. I remember Sirmon down in Starkville at Mississippi State. He was much maligned, to kind of put it mildly, ended up going to Louisville and not, getting things back on track there either. And it seems like he's been a bit of a stabilizing force, or maybe he's kind of found his niche out there in Berkeley. This defense, let's start, I guess, on the run side of things. Florida State's running game has been putrid. They are the second worst running game in the entire nation right now. Where's the confidence level, I guess, in this running defense being able to hem things up? It seems like that's going to be a major part of it. And what has sort of been the growth you've seen from maybe Peter Sirmon as a DC for Cal?
Well, I asked Sirmon about a sort of a similar line of questioning today. I mentioned that he kind of got a rep with Cal fans as being a risk-averse, conservative defensive coordinator, and sort of a bend but not break situation, and that can be frustrating for fans. And I asked, you've got now the type of talent on both sides of the ball, all three levels of the ball, of the defense, that you can play a more aggressive style. Is that kind of who you are rather than what we've seen in these last few years? And he didn't really answer it directly, but you could tell. I know he's wanted to play aggressively, and they've had to give up on it when the defensive backfield wasn't capable of playing man coverage. You can't play aggressive on the defensive line if you're playing zone defense. It just doesn't work. He's got some lockdown DBs this year, especially with Noel Williams and Harris, Marcus Harris. Those guys, man, they're money. So they've been able to unleash the defensive line a lot more. And Aiden Keana is a good example of that. He transferred from Notre Dame and he was injured a lot there, didn't get a lot of playing time, but he's killing it. And there's a lot of other big guys up the middle, Ricky Correa and Stanley McKenzie and Nate Burrell. And then they use a 2-4-5 defense. So the outside linebackers function as defensive ends. And Xavier Carlton had a breakout game. He's a big 6'7", 275-pound guy that had 2.5 sacks last week. And even though they had their best pass rusher out for the most part, most of the season, David Reese, they've still been able to be productive in the pass rush. So the middle linebackers, I think, is what really is the straw that stirs the drink. Cade Uluave and Teddy Buchanan, those guys, man, they get it done. They'll chase you sideline to sideline. They hit you hard. They know where the play is going. They know what they're doing out there. So being able to put guys out on the field at all three levels for the first time, really, I think in the Wilcox era, or maybe since early in the Wilcox era, that they can count on, that makes a big difference in their style of play. So I think any yards that Florida State's going to earn on the ground, they're going to be hard-earned yards. There's a lot of talent on that Florida State roster. So believe me, everybody knows that the light can come on at any time. So nobody's expecting Cal to run through anybody. Everybody is thinking if 0-3 or not, if they can come out with a win, this is going to be a big win. So everybody's just dying to see how it's going to play out, honestly.
You touched on it. I just want to get maybe a little bit more your thoughts on Buchanan and Uluave. I'm the guy that I've minimized the importance of linebacker play over the last few years of doing this podcast. And, Florida State had a pair of really talented linebackers last year. They weren't very, very heralded. They weren't very decorated as recruits, but clearly now we know that they were very talented because they were part of a very successful defense. And Florida State does not have that kind of production, leadership, et cetera, at linebacker. Just how much of that defense, the success, do you think is because of Buchanan and Uluave and just the way they've been playing? And how real does that feel that it's not, just a 3-game spurt, but these are really, truly pieces that are going to keep the Cal defense stout and sturdy?
These guys are the heart and soul of this Cal defense. David Reese, the guy I mentioned, who was their sack leader, he's kind of their vocal and emotional leader, but these guys are right there. They're both an interesting story too. Cade is a guy that was kind of a middle of the pack level recruit out of Utah. Not a ton of offers. They were really thin at running back with injuries last year. He had played some running back in high school, so they moved him to running back as a true freshman. They got desperate at linebacker because there were so many injuries at middle linebacker that they flipped him back. And then he had to start as a true freshman halfway through the season. And what happens? He becomes a freshman All-American. When in the world do you see something like that happen? Yeah. The guy's a beast. Yeah. Teddy Buchanan's a guy that Cal looked at out of high school. He was kind of undersized. He played in San Francisco, and you think in San Francisco you'd have a lot of talent. There'd be a lot of recruits there, but you don't see a lot of talent coming out of the city. That's starting to change now in recent years with Archbishop Reardon and St. Ignatius and a few others. But he kind of got his feet wet with UC Davis, a small FCS program that's usually a top 20 program at FCS. He built himself up, and Cal eventually saw a guy that they thought, this is an ideal guy to plug into our defense. We think he's got a style that fits what we're trying to do. He's aggressive. He's intelligent. He's strong. He's everything that you want in a middle linebacker. I mean, if you want a prototype, maybe you add a couple of inches to him. But at a college level, big time. And Cal's middle linebackers have a long legacy. I think the gold standard in the Wilcox era, Evan Weaver is a guy that led the nation in tackles, and I think he had almost 200 tackles his senior year. That's just insane volume of tackles. They've always had these guys that they can plug into Sermon's system that are really productive, and to have both of them be pretty much on an equal level, it's a huge key for Cal's defense.
All right, last thing on the way out. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I think Cal got the better of Ole Miss not too long ago. They were down in Auburn just a few weeks ago and took out Auburn and kind of made them shuffle up the way they were having to look at their quarterback position. How much confidence do you think there is from Cal playing on a stage like this, playing the foe in the Southeast? How much confidence do they have because maybe not even the Ole Miss game, but just Auburn having so recently and just the spat of success they've had to start off the year?
Well, one thing that you know about a Wilcox team is you're never going to have an overconfident team. He just won't let them get there. So I know they see Florida State start. I know they know they're 0-3. But believe me, they're reminded every hour of every day that they're in the coaches' offices or meeting rooms or on the field how much talent the Florida State roster has. So there's no way they'll go in there overconfident. I think they're going in there with a little bit more of a spring in their step because of the good start and being able to win in a place like Jordan-Hare Stadium at Auburn. I think that's equipped them a little bit better to be able to come into this type of hostile situation with more confidence. But they're ready for battle, and they know they're going to be in for a battle. FSU is not going to roll over, and they know that very well.
All right, we'll find out 7 p.m. ESPN2 Eastern time when Cal comes to town to take on Florida State. First ever ACC game for the Cal Golden Bears. Jim McGill breaking everything down with us here on Wake Up Warchant from Bear Insider, bearinsider.com. Jim, thanks for doing this, man. And I don't know if you're going to be making out to Tallahassee or not, but safe travels.
Absolutely. Right, can't wait. Wouldn't miss it.
All right. I'll try to shake your hand up there in the press box. Thanks for taking time out. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Take care.
Listening to headlines, Corey, I should get Ira Schofel on the show and have him explain himself rather than you explain it for him. But I feel like Ira's been on this crusade to let everybody know that, obviously there's struggles going on, but like they've got good guys still. Like this is still apparently a team that they like each other. The people that lead them and are around them on a day-to-day basis seem to like them. I think they're good kids. Does that matter? Does that like give us hope that makes it easier to turn things around this season? Because if there were character issues, then you have to flush those guys out. I just, I hear what he's saying. I'm listening, I guess, to what he's saying, but maybe I'm not hearing what he's trying to convey with that message. What do you think it means when we hear from multiple sources that this is still a team that has good guys on it?
I think most people would rather hear this is a team that has good players on it than good guys. Okay. But I think the overriding sentiment there, the message is that you think there's not a lot of give up in this team necessarily. There's not a lot of give up in the locker room. And it's weird because in 2021, that team, I guess Norvell had been there for a year and 3 months, but it's like they didn't really have any reason to believe. No. And they turned it around. Again, it wasn't a great season, but it was legitimately looking like it was going to be a 2-10 or a 1-11 season, and they ended up being 3 points away from making a bowl. And if Jordan Travis doesn't get hurt in the swamp and miss the second quarter, they probably make a bowl. So that's great. That's cool that they did that. They went from 0-4 to almost 6-6. And it's like, okay, well, I think this locker room probably has better competitors and more belief, I think, than that locker room did. So there is hope there that they just won't give up on the season. I think that's the message there, is they're not going to just tap out. Oh, golly, we're 0-3, or oh, we're 1-5, or whatever it might be. We're just going to tap out. You hope that they still come to work every day and they still take it seriously and they still try to win. At the same time, the 2021 team had Jordan Travis. You don't. And now, was Jordan Travis of 21 the same guy as 23? Of course not. But he could beat North Carolina with his legs. He made some pretty impressive throws against Miami late in the game. He played really well at Boston College when you needed him to. He had some moments, man. And I don't know that they have. And so the point being, you go and beat Syracuse. It was a tough game. You were really close to losing that game. And then Jordan drives him down the field with a couple of scrambles. Fitzgerald makes the kick. You win.
He fainted. He did like the Cam Ward where he pulled up lame to the sideline, but then he kept going, right, against Syracuse?
Yeah. It was like the Pickett kid from Pitt where he acted like he was going to slide and then just ran for a touchdown. That's right. He looked like he was going out of bounds and then cut it back. So he had I think he had 50 yards of scrambles on that one play to get him into, because they weren't going to throw for any first downs in that game.
The drive you're talking about.
That drive. Well, really that whole game, honestly. Yeah. And then they kicked the field goal to win it. But I think that team right there saw right in that moment, even though he wasn't the most talkative kid, he wasn't a leader at that point, they saw something to believe in. They saw a person to believe in. Is that fair to put that much pressure on a quarterback? Probably not. But it's why they get all the attention. It's why it's the most important position in sports. They see something to believe in. And then the very next week, they go to Chapel Hill, and that kid's out playing what we thought was going to be a first-round pick. I mean, I think in that game, Travis was like 10 of 12 for 200 yards. He threw for 3 touchdowns. He ran for over 100, had a 50-yard touchdown run in that game. And there, all of a sudden, in the span of 7 days, that team believed in themselves again because of what was going on at the quarterback position. Is that fair? Of course not. But it's the reality, man. And do you have a kid on this roster that can make them believe like that? I don't think Brock Glenn is – maybe 2024 Brock Glenn is the equivalent of 2021 Jordan Travis as far as an impact he can make on the team. I think I'm doubting it.
Yeah.
But I certainly know that 2024 DJ Uiagalelei is not 2021 Jordan Travis. There's no belief in him at all, with good reason. And there's no belief in this current offense the way it's structured, with very good reason. And if you continue to go out and watch your offense just become a punt turnover machine, it's hard to keep playing hard, man. Should they? Yes, the defense absolutely should keep playing hard. They should. Hey, if you shut them out, you win. But the reality, man, is that that's really hard to do. It's really hard to do. It's like a center fielder in baseball if the pitcher's walking the world. You can't expect him to be on his tippy toes every pitch. Okay, this one's coming to me when he's thrown 13 straight balls. So you get a little lackadaisical, then the ball's hit over your head because you don't get a great jump. The same thing can happen, man. You just start – there's a little less belief and a little less belief. There's a here we go again mentality. Will he ever get a first down? Will we ever be off the field? And yeah, it would be awesome. Awesome. You know, I saw the McCord kid for Syracuse. Don't know if he's any good. I know he lit up Georgia Tech. But he had a run on against Georgia Tech in that game where he scrambled for a first down on like 3rd and 11. He got like a 12 or 13-yard run. And out of bounds, he spiked the ball and screamed. And it's like, that would be nice to see.
DJ ran for a first down on 4th down, and like I think he might have just like clapped his hand to himself, like, all right, attaboy, DJ, way to go. And it's like, man, you could have roared right there.
He should have gotten down on one knee and done a first down, like a really elongated first down, and then and started hyping up the crowd.
Flip the ball to the ref, yeah.
Yeah.
That's not who he is, and I don't know if that's a problem.
It isn't, and it's not fair to expect him to be that. I'm saying, but the offense is in such disarray. It's not fair to DJ that they need a spark like that, but they do.
I just really think, I don't know, Corley, am I just crazy? I just feel like they're only a few plays away from any game moving forward other than Clemson and Notre Dame from winning it. And I know that's not a very high bar. That's not the bar we had set going to the season. But yeah, man, if guys don't drop these passes, if DJ sees 1 or 2 plays a little bit quicker, makes a more accurate throw, I just feel like that's how close they were to Memphis. I think Boston College is the only game they never really had a shot in that. Like they got out, I don't want to say they got outclassed, but they got outplayed pretty much start to finish against Boston College. Like Memphis, that game, they had moments to take that game back. And Georgia Tech, they lost on a last-second field goal. So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's why I don't disagree with anything you've said in terms of needing a spark and changing things. But maybe I'm just not that fatalistic feeling right now. I mean, the season is, by and large, lost, but it just feels like it's not going to take too much to turn things around this year, which it's still not going to be enough to make you feel good about maybe the future, which I guess that's what's hanging over a lot of people's heads right now.
I mean, maybe. There's 13 players in this country that have more touchdowns than Florida State as a team. 13, including the one kid from Boise that has 9. He's played 2 games. He has more touchdowns than Florida State does in 3. The offense is so bad that it's like, yes, if they make a catch here or there, if they make a couple of plays, maybe they score an extra 6 or 7 points. It's still an awful offense, even if they make those plays. You're not. It's not like they're losing these games 31-28.
Yeah, they turned the ball over 3 times against Memphis,
Yeah, man, but that's what bad teams do.
Yeah.
How do you run headlong into the only tackler in the picture? You're standing right next to your punt returner as he tries to catch it. You get hit as you're throwing the ball.
You take a shot. The one shot you take was when you had no shot to get it off because there was a guy breathing down your neck, but you still threw it anyway.
But you also don't avoid the pressure. Yeah. You let him hit you, and then obviously the ball goes straight up, and your players can't go get the ball. Their guy goes and gets the ball. I know Morlock was pushed trying to come back for that ball, but I thought it should have been pass interference because he was being pushed in the chest when he was trying to come back to the ball. but maybe they didn't call it because DJ, the ball was deflected. And then you could do whatever you want. Or maybe they just missed it. I don't know. But either way, their guy went and caught it, and your guys didn't. But, yeah, man, it's like that's how it works. The bad teams turn the ball over. The bad teams don't get turnovers on defense. And, either way, it's not – they might be close to these wins, but that feels a lot like the 06-07 Florida State teams, right? Like, they were close to wins, but when you add it all up, you're 7-6. Yeah, you could have beaten. You could have won this game. You could have won that game. You were in a one-score game with Clemson. You were all doing all this stuff, but at the end of the day, you keep losing. And yes, they're close, but are they close to being a good team, or are they close to maybe lucking out a couple of wins against Memphis? It's not like they're getting blown off the field, but it's also not like they're unlucky. They're just a bad football team they deserve to be 0-3. I wouldn't say any of those games. They outplayed the team and they got unlucky to lose. They didn't. They can't move the ball and they can't score. They had 67 yards at half, man, after a bye week. But you know what, folks? Ain't no bye week this week. They got Cal coming in. They got the hippies from Northern California. They got these Berkeley kids coming in, probably going to be hacky-sacking at the 30 before the game. Who knows what they're going to try to do at Doak Campbell Stadium. So you need to get there early. You need to pack it out. The Marching Chiefs are going to be playing, probably in full uniform. But either way, they're going to be playing. It's going to be loud. It's going to be maybe the last night game of the season at Doak. They might start playing them at 9 in the morning. So get there early, be loud, and maybe they're going to miracle a win. And when they do, today on Headlines, Aslan, somebody suggested shotgun and a natty light instead of pouring champagne on myself. We'll figure something out. Okay. But if they win, we're going to douse Ira in something. We just have to figure out what it's going to be.
Ashton Genty, by the way, that's the running back from Boise, who apparently his hometown is listed as Jacksonville, Florida.
That's too bad.
Yeah, went to high school in Texas, though, so I'm sure he grew up out there. All right. Good stuff, Corey. We're done here, everybody. We'll be at practice, the Royal We. So check out warchant.com for updates from practice, interviews, and such. Live show, 6 p.m. tonight. Buried the lead. My goodness. So tap in, as the kids say, 6 o'clock live show. That will be fun. We'll do Renegade Express mailbag for your Friday show, which, by the way, sorry to our guy, random_John. His question, I thought I didn't get to it, but it was, what are Norvell and Tokar's doing that's preventing our freshman quarterbacks from being awesome? I don't know. John. I don't know.
So good. It's a fair answer, but yeah, it's also a fair question.
Yeah.
Like you don't feel comfortable. You still don't feel comfortable enough to make one of these guys your starter when you've seen what you've seen these 3 games. And Kromenhoek's been here for 9 months, right?
Yeah, he's early enrolling.
And Brock Glenn's been here for 21 months. Okay, they're not really freshmen anymore. Yeah. If they haven't picked it up by now, are they gonna? So yeah, let's see but we got 9 games to see what you got in these guys. Hopefully.
Go. All right, he's Corey. I'm Aslan. Thanks for listening to Wake Up Warchant. Again, live show 6 p.m. tonight. Join us, won't you? Thanks for listening. Wake Up Warchant, as always, presented by Vitamin Energy.